yarara yedai. Yeah? Okay. Coming up. We are approximately 10 lines from the bottom, page Yud. Line begins Chitzonius. We have pointed out that even though there is a Seder Hishtalshelus, and the Seder Hishtalshelus goes through various transitions, such as from Chochma Bino into Zoh, or from Seichel into Midas, and from Kesed into Chochma Bino. It's another kind of transition. And we pointed out that these are very different type of interactions. From Chochma Bino into Zoh is a Hamshochel. It's called Mimhus Limahus, because they are essentially in the same realm, as we explained. They both have a year from Zman Mokim and a year from presence. Their presence is, so to speak, time dependent. Then there is Kesed. I'm talking from Kesed into Chochmah. And these, we're talking about two very different realms. There is not a commonality between them, because Kesed is the Mailam Yishtalshelus. Kesed is Etzem Holocaust, and Chochma is already a year from Gilui, and that's why Chochma is called Chochma Me'ayin Timotzi. And the way it's described is that the Chayus that comes from Kesed into Chochma is likened to Cyrus, to hair. Hair also have Chayus. They don't have Chayus of their own. They're not Chay. They're attesting that there is something that's alive. They're pointing to something that's alive. They come from something that's alive. But they themselves do not manifest any kind of chayus. So similarly, that which transitions, which affects Chochmah from Kesed, is in such a kind of relation. Chochmah is aware that there is a Kesed, but Chochmah does not get the actual effect of Kesed.
That's to say, Kesser gets like hair, like what hair is to real life. Chochmah gets
from Kesser,
comparison to what really Kesser is.
Right. It's still a phenomenal thing. We'll still talk about it. The fact that Chochmah is able to recognize, like we said many times over these few days, recognize that there is such a thing as Kesser. There is such thing as Rotz. Is already a phenomenal Gilui. Going back to the moment that we have this this illustration that we use a lot that illustrates the Chochmah. Like we said, that there is a host and there is a guest, and the host can serve the guest the best lunch. The presence of the host, the very presence of the host, even though that there's no transition there, he's not giving him anything of himself. He's giving him the lunch, but his presence counts more than anything else. This sensitivity that we have to understand and to recognize this quality is a very unique and special human sensitivity. There is nothing there, and yet you're saying if the host leaves, then I can't even eat the lunch. So this is what Chochmah is able to. Chochmah has this beetle and this cognizance of the Keser, but Chochmah is not Keser. What in fact is this Nakuda? What is that Chochmah recognizes? As we said before, Chochmah on down, all koiches. They exist, what we call in Zman U'Mokum. What does it mean in Zman U'Mokum? It means that Chochmah is in a state of activity. Anything active has to have Zman U'Mokum, has to have time to be active in. Everything from Chochmah, that's what it's called koiches. Koiches, these are actions. Activity is not an essential reality. It comes to reality and it senses what it is through its activity, through actions. Rotzoin is not activity dependent at all. Rotzoin is present whether you're aware of the Rotzoin or not aware of the Rotzoin. Rotzoin is a manifestation of the presence of a nefesh itself. Nefesh itself is a manifestation of the presence of God, and God is a motor rishon, is a presence that we cannot we do not even seek to know what it is, because this is beyond beyond cognizance, beyond expression. Rotzoin has that quality. It represents an essential reality. Chochmah cannot grasp that essential reality, but it is aware of its presence. That makes Chochmah into Chochmah. And this is the transition between Chochmah and Keser. Which is called Ha'orach Hitzenis. V'nimtzo, thus it comes out, V'ha'amshocha mi-keser l'chochma, that which comes from keser and chochma, hu loi b'bchinas erech. That hamshocha is not b'bchinas erech, not a quality of hamshocha, that there is an actual commonality between them. Umimhus limahus, which means it would be a hamshocha from one mahus to another. In other words, the reality itself is correlating to the other reality. Keser remains ayin relative to chochmah. Umikol mokoim, and yet still, ein ze hamshocha shaloi kefi seder ha'hishtalshus. Okay, here's what the challenge of this whole union is. This should not be understood that this is a hamshocha shaloi kifi seder hishtalshelus. That it is not according to the order of hishtalshelus. How do we understand that? The kar husad beseder ha'hishtalshelus. Because this is how it was established, beseder ha'hishtalshelus, in the order of hishtalshelus, in the order of transition and of chaining down. Shemikeser lechochmo tiyeh ha'hamshocho shaloi bibchinas erech v'shaychus. That from keser to chochmo the hamshocha should be not in a manner of erech, of relating, of proximity. And from chochma to zoh it should be bibchinas erech. From chochma to zoh should be a hamshocha bibchinas erech, in a proximity, in a relatable manner. V'hakoil hu ha'hamshocha shapi seder ha'hishtalshelus. But all of it, this entire perspective, is a hamshocha that represents the seder hishtalshelus, the seder of hishtalshelus, of chaining down. And one more line, and then we'll attend to that. The element that comes in this, that is involved in this mishem ma, from shema, where does shema all of a sudden come into this? What we need to understand is that this hamshocha, even from chochma bino into midas, and surely the hamshocha that from keser, shalei b'yerech, from keser into chochma, is based and is effectuated by an element of ma, an element of bittul, by an element that is higher than the mitzias of the participants, so to speak. Therefore, and there is an union of shema involved in this. Shema, this is what what affects and reminds all of these madrigas, whether it is zoh or chochma or keser, that there is a union of ma, the union of bittul. But what is that aspect of Shema that is involved in this process? Harei ze ha'or levad. It is only ha'or of the Shema. Wait, 1 second. V'hoyikerhu, and the principle in this whole effect of the Shema upon all of these different participant elements is shoise ha'hiskalolus, that it affects the hiskalolus, the madreges the hishtalshelus leva. It affects the hiskalolus, the madreges of hishtalshelus. Just as we explained the union from ha'ora all along. Ha'ora means the functional aspect. Not the essential aspect, though the functional aspect, the effect of its presence. This one he says the effect of the presence of Shema over here. The present. Go back. The presence of Shema in this entire process is to the extent that it affects their correlation. There's not an actual presence. Yes, Afton.
So Chochma gets the Ayin, Yesha Matoi Rishayin. It's a grace.
Almost on.
Chochma gets Ayin, Yesha Matoi Rishayin. What does Chochma have to give to Bina in the way of Hasaga?
let's step back a little. The Indian that Chochmah gets, and the Indian from Motzu Rishon and all that, the principle of Chochmah is not merely that it has a Motzu Rishon. What Chochmah gets is that everything that exists has the Motzu Rishon, it comes from the Motzu Rishon and represents the Motzu Rishon. That Indian that Chochmah recognizes that exists and it represents Motzu Rishon, this is what it gives to Bina.
That's the Sefer. The Kolan inside my nimsu elamamit.
That's right.
The Sefer.
That's right. That's right. And this Chochmah knows that this is amitis himotzi. But in Chochmah, this is what we always point out. Chochmah, the best motion of Chochmah is sight. And what exactly occurs in sight? On the one hand, it's completely automatic. You open your eyes, and everything is present in one glance. At one glance, it's as if it's only one entity. But in what you see there is everything, not one entity. But you see it as one entity. Why? Because you see it from the presentor's perspective. But you see everything as being presented. Bina picks up on that which is being presented. And it also recognizes that the element of Chochmah. That's through the Chochmah it recognizes that there is a truth behind it. So in Chochmah, all the details that ultimately are identified in Bina are present in Chochmah. Anything that is time and space, that Mizman Mokim, by definition, has a presence, has time, has details. We will speak about this maybe another time. The Indian that Chochmah, we said, what is the difference between Chochmah and Keser? That Chochmah comes into being. There is a sense that this is something which was discovered. That already, this is the fundamental difference between Keser and Chochmah. In Keser, in Rotzon, there is not a question, how do I, not only is that not a question, why do I want it, but how did I get to want it? This is the Nefesh. Nefesh wants what Nefesh wants. How did I get to want it? That's part of reality. In Chochmah, there is a question, how did you get to know this? Like in sight, even though it's automatic, but there is an activity that is involved, how you got to know what you know. As we always point out, in sight, stop back for a second. We always explain that Seichel is this process dependent. If you know something without having gone through the process of acquiring that knowledge, you don't know it. And that is true in sight as well. Where is the process in sight? Where can we identify the process? There is always a process. As you keep your eyes open, it's always a process. That which you see this second is not the same what you saw a second ago. You see it now because you see it now. It's not the same. It's an active process. But we don't even notice this. But definitely it's so. But where do we actually notice it more emphatically is that we can close our eyes. And we can open our eyes again. When we open eyes, then we see that this is an active awareness, not an automatic awareness. All right. Pardon me. Okay. So here's the important thing to understand. That this whole phenomenon of the Hamshocha from Keser into Chochmah, even though it's Shalei B'Yerech, and then from Chochmah into Midas, which is B'Yerech, Mehus and Mehus, they both go into the category of Seder Hishtalshelus. I'm sorry if you say that Hishtalshelus. Because in fact, there is an element of beetle. There is an aspect in Chochmah that we can explain. How does Chochmah become aware of Keser? Even though it's Shalei B'Yerech. This is why he says that this is not Shalei Seder Hishtalshelus. And there is a Ha'oras Shema in it. What is the Ha'oras Shema? The Ha'oras Shema is to affect this Hiskalus. And what in fact affects this Hiskalus? What brings about this Hiskalus? Is the beetle element. Both in Chochmah relative to Keser, and in Midas relative to Seichel. In order that Seichel should affect Midas, there also has to be an element of beetle. It is the finer element of the Midas. What is the finer element of the Midas? Midas essentially are subjective. This is how I feel. But there is an element, this is a human element. Yes, this is how I feel, but I also want to know that I'm feeling correctly. That this deserves to be loved, and this deserves to be hated, to be feared, whatever it is. This isn't just my reaction. This is the Midas, this is the Shema as affected Midas, and that's why Midas are able to receive from Chochmah Bina, and this is how Chochmah Bina is able to receive from Keser.
That element seems like a little bit of Chochmah embedded in the Midas, a little bit of Seichel embedded in the Midas, where the Midas says, my own experience aside, is it real? Is it true? That sounds like a little Seichel there, yeah?
Midas does not ask the question, is it true? Midas does not have the capacity to ask that question. But it has that element of beetle. Let's understand what beetle is, Shema, or in our orientation. Like we said before in this module, this is a very useful illustration of the host and the guest. What is the relationship between the host and the guest, between the guest and the host? He was invited for lunch, and he has his lunch. What is it that he gets as a result of the presence of the host. On Father, he was invited. Just think. He gets a sense that he and his presence, and he's being recognized not just by himself. There is a reality. He is part of reality. And this is what he is affected. This is what touches him more deeply than the launch itself. This is all in the same vein. Like we hear the Marshal there, we said light. It's very important that we should understand what light is. He said the light was created before the sun was created. This is a godly presence. Then light becomes physical light. And there's an energy, whatever it is, and it hits the object and comes back to the eye. So that the human being and the animal experience sort of the same thing. Or even a camera. And it is required. It is an Indian for Shema. There's a beetle element in the human being to appreciate, no, that this is not the same thing. This is not energy, this is light. This is a godly presence saying that it's light, there's no hell of a hester, there's no darkness. Things are not just a tangible element, they have a presence, they are visible. This is the similar in it. To relate. Okay, let's go back to visibility. Everybody will understand this. Visibility, the fact that I can see this object at a distance, clearly is directly an experience that this object and me are in the same place. Which means this is a much greater correlationship than just a piece of energy hitting my eye. Not at a distance. We are in the same place. We experience each other's presence. Perhaps, not perhaps, on a much deeper and greater level, manner than by touch. This is the beetle. This is the Shema element that affects, and again, it's clear Shema because it's only human. The animal doesn't have that experience.
So this is to say that the Midas too have this element.
The Midas too are affected by this element, and Chochmah, because of this, gets a sense of what's in the Rotzen, which is not even an active thing. There is no way to transmit Rotzen to Chochmah. Rotzen is not an active thing. Rotzen is a reality. It's a godly reality. It's part of the nefesh. Like we say, what does a human being want? He wants to be a human being. Define that Rotzen. Why does he want to be a human being? Because he senses that this is the godly truth. But like in the Shtusim, that he just wants to survive. Where does that come from? So this is so the Ha'ora Sheman, and this is why this is not called the Minor Seder Hishtalshelus. It is all part of Seder Hishtalshelus. Because there is a correlationship. Not mehus limhus, but ayin, but to the beetle. This is it for this morning. Have a good day. I don't know if anybody is. There must be somebody there. Otherwise, I will be in the morning. Have a good day.
The phrase "makom" means that this is telling us that it's not.
That it's not Hamshacha Shaloi K'fi Seder. It is K'fi Seder.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Two negatives.
Yeah.
How does sight reveal that we're in the same place more than feeling?
Sorry?
How does sight reveal that we're more in the same place than feeling does?
Feeling is not place dependent. Feeling is object dependent. Whereas sight is place dependent.
No.
It is within visible range. It is in my area.
The idea together.
The reason that there is the effect of sight, the experience of sight, is that distance does not have any effect whatsoever. And it's all one true presence. And as long as you're within visibility range, you're visible, you're within we're there together. If I have to come to touch it, means that we are in two separate places. And the only way for me to convey it is by touching it. If I don't have to come and touch it, means that we are in the same place to begin with. You'll have to think about this.
Me as my whole self and you as your whole self, as opposed to like you can only relate as like on a certain.
No, it's not me versus you. It is the bigger reality that encompasses both of us that we experience inside. Whereas in touch, we're two separate entities.
This is what the host gives to the guest.
Right. That's what gives. The relationship between host and guest expresses this in that there is a reality by both of them. They recognize each other. If the host leaves and says, "Here's your food," this whole thing disappears. Then I'm separate and you're separate. You give me my food. There isn't a real relationship there.
Smile. Give a smile. Give a smile. Did you take yourself off? Smile.
Oh